In the early 2020s, a Japanese tourist is arriving in Hawaii and staying at a villa for 15 days. They possess a 24-karat blue diamond worth $6 million. Merle May Chi, a gang boss operating in Oahu Island, hired 4 teenagers to retrieve the valuable gem. Despite the task being a level 2 in difficulty, the team didn't foresee the events that transpired after going to the property. Who is this person? Why did they cause so much trouble? Why do they have a 24-karat diamond? And most importantly, is their hometown Morio? Hello everyone, it's me, BXB. With the first chapter being out, there is a lot of discussion on where this part is heading, especially with our first arc, which will be taking place during a heist at a luxurious villa. There is much discourse on who is at this location, due to it probably being a returning character from JOJOLANds. The first chapter of JOJOLands is a pretty isolated story, with no connections calling back to JOJOLANds, with the exception of Jodio mentioning his family tree, with us finding out Barbara Ann is the sister of Holly Kira. Another reason is that the Higashikata family has mentioned that they were planning on going to Hawaii, but they had to cancel the trip. And knowing Part 9 is taking place in Hawaii, this is probably a subtle hint. Not only that a JOJOLAND character going to Hawaii would be a good way to connect the two parts, since Part 8 and Part 9 only takes place 10-ish years apart, but also Meryl said that they're Japanese, and that feels like foreshadowing, since the last part takes place entirely in Japan. The community seems to conclude that there is 4 likely characters that will be in the villa. If you see my poll from a few weeks ago, you probably know who these characters are. But if you're uninformed, these characters are Josuke, Yasuho, Joshu, and Saruki. These are the 4 likely candidates, and I'm going to explain why for each character. First off, we have Josuke. He's the safest bet in my opinion and many others' opinions as well, due to the fact that he's the main character of the last part. Jodio and Josuke seem to be 2 characters that seems to be almost complete opposites of each other. Josuke stopped a criminal organization distributing an insanely powerful fruit throughout Morio, whereas Jodio is actively participating in a drug trade. Josuke being a mentor role will probably help Jodio get out of the criminal underworld. There is some things that seem pretty odd however. One thing is that Josuke isn't really someone that would carry around a diamond, especially an extremely rare and valuable one. Throughout JOJOLAND, we never get to see him have any affinity towards valuable objects. Another reason is that Josuke is technically Jodio's cousin. Even though he probably would be unaware of him knowing that he has a cousin, it seems pretty odd that Josuke would beat the shit out of a fellow Joestar, especially when Kei is dead and Holly's fate is still unknown. In my community poll, 36% out of the 47 people who voted think it's Josuke who is at the villa, which makes him the person with the most votes. But since he only has 36%, people are still decisive on it, and the majority of voters choose other options. Second, we have Yasuo, and thematically she makes the most sense. Not only her going to the villa mirrors events from Part 5, where Koichi goes to Italy, but the crew stealing the diamond would parallel Part 5 events, with Giorno stealing Koichi's luggage. Also, Yasuo would be someone who would carry a diamond around. From the hair clip flashback, we get to see Yasuo being interested in rare items. Not as much as the next person on the list, but definitely someone who would be interested in those things. One problem though is that her stand isn't really combat heavy, and it's more of a utility based stand. Of course she has go beyond with her cell phone, but it would be pretty weird for her to use Josuke's abilities when he's not in Hawaii. In my community poll, I am surprised that only 4% of the voters chose Yasuo, which makes her the least voted candidate, which surprises me somewhat. I feel like the Part 5 connection would make people more inclined to vote on her, but apparently not. Although, I do think that she is a likely person that will be at the villa. Next up we have the most memed on. Oh yes, the one, the only, Joshu. It's actually kind of funny how many people are convinced that it's Joshu, of all characters. And I think the funniest part is that Joshu seems like a very likely person to be in Hawaii. Not only that, Joshu mentioned that he hated going on airplanes, which would be some good poetic irony and character development. He, out of any character in the series, would have a diamond on him, without a doubt, especially at a place like the Hawaiian villa. Joshu has proven to be the most greedy and selfish JOJOLand character, tasking Josuke for thinking he stole his money without any proof, stealing money at Shakedown Road, and even getting the Milagro Man curse by stealing a guy's wallet. Also, Joshu is definitely a powerful stand user. The ability to attach and detach anything is absolutely busted, and it seems like this stand has very little limitations. 34% of the voters said that Joshu is going to be at the villa, which surprised me since there is so many memes about it and I didn't even think that people are being serious about it. The last character is Saruki, and in my opinion, he is the least likely. I personally don't see him being a person that would have a diamond on him. However, I don't think it's entirely unlikely, since he might still carry on Jobin's ideology. He is indeed someone who would carry around valuable objects. Another point is that if Saruki is at the villa, we get to see an adult version of him, which would mean he would be much more powerful. Paper Moon King, despite looking very simple, is actually a pretty powerful stand. Not only the origami objects will have properties on what they're based off of, but also if you step on them, you will have hallucinations, where objects would look like other objects, and there seems to be no limitations. I think an adult Sarugi would have a much more powerful version of Paper Moon King, and it would be very interesting to see what it would be like. In my poll, 14% of the voters said it would be Sarugi, which shocks me because that is more votes than Yasuho. Speaking of my poll, I actually made a fifth option, new/other character, which, just like Sarugi, got 14% of the votes. Let's go over some of the other characters. Narusuke seems like a good choice. He definitely seems like someone that would go to Hawaii. But you also have to take into the fact that he works hard for the fruit company, so there is a chance he might be too preoccupied to go to a vacation. He is definitely someone that would not take a diamond at a villa, and his stand is too much of a support stand. I think Daya is pretty unlikely, even though she is indeed the person who first mentioned Hawaii in JOJOLand, and I think she's pretty much doing her own thing by now. Same thing with Hado. However, Hado's stand is pretty strong, unlike Daya's, which is pretty much a support stand as well. Mitsuba's stand is actually pretty powerful. I do think she can mess people up with her abilities, but I don't think she has much of an incentive to go to Hawaii, especially with a diamond. Even though I'm pretty sure that we're getting a returning character, there is still a possibility that we're getting a completely new character. The main reason why some people think this is because it would be pretty odd if the first enemy stand user would be a returning character. However, I do think this would be an interesting dynamic if this was the case. By the way, I'm sorry for not uploading lately. I have been busy with a lot of stuff and I had a lot of things preoccupied. The second chapter is coming out soon and I'm definitely going to make a video on that. See you everyone in the JOJOLands Chapter 2. Meow!